All right. Well, welcome everybody. We are here again, the Small Business Podcast, sponsored as always by Vibrant Community Consulting, which is working hard to increase the vibrancy of our rural communities. Small Business, you guys know, is a specific program of Vibrant Community Consulting. It's dedicated to resourcing, training, championing the smallest of small businesses. My name is Steve Fredlund, and I serve as the Chief Catalyst of Vibrant Community Consulting, and also get a chance to host the SSB Podcast. Today, we are going to introduce you to another one of our small businesses and our nonprofits that is a member of one of our great community partners in East Central Minnesota. So let's bring her in. Kelly Nelson, welcome to SSB.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, for sure. So tell us a little bit about your story. So what are you involved with? And then we'll kind of dig in and roll up our sleeves. I know it's kind of big what you're involved with.
It is. It's hard to explain too. So I'm Kelly Nelson. I am the event coordinator at the Braham Event Center. And we are a nonprofit. And the Braham Event Center is one of 5 overall programs that Tusen Tack programs as a whole offers to the community. People say Tusen what? And I say right. Tusen Tack.
First of all, what's Tusen and then Tusen
yeah,
what?
Exactly. Right? Yeah, exactly. So Tusen Tack means 1,000 thanks in Swedish and probably also in Norwegian. And the name comes from our thrift store, which has been around for over 30 years here in Braham. And so they named it all those years ago because so many of the volunteers were coming from a Scandinavian background. So the thrift store has been in existence for 30 years and is still to this day completely volunteer run, with the proceeds going to support various groups in our area. And about 10 years ago, the community got together and said, we need a gathering place. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, a lot of the volunteers that were already working at the thrift store were part of the planning. And so 7 years ago in 2014, the Braham Event Center was funded and constructed and built, and it's here now. And when that happened, the thrift store teamed up with the local Braham area food shelf, which has also been in existence for about 30 years independently. And so they came under the umbrella of Tusen Tack programs. So the 5 programs now are the thrift store, the Braham area food shelf, the Braham Event Center itself, Kathy's Kitchen, which is our on-site kitchen for meals for any of the events that we have here. And the 5th one is our library, our community library, which is called the Alice Stute Library. So,
so
in a nutshell, that's our...
A lot to unpack there. So Tusen Tack, people are like, is it Tusen Tack? What is it? So it's Tusen, Tusen.
Yeah.
And Tack, which is Tack, right?
Yep,
so
you
Tusen
got it.
Tack, 1,000 things. And that's where it all started, right? So all of these other efforts really started with just the thrift store 30 years ago.
Right.
Yep. Now, did you have a connection to the thrift store going way back, or how did...
I personally don't. I married into this community. My husband, Tim, grew up here, and his parents and their parents. So he's like 5th generation or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of just came into this. We moved up to the area in 2011. And he kept telling me about this community center that was going to be built. He kept driving me by the grounds of it, trying to get me excited. And I just couldn't understand what he was telling me. And I laugh about that because a couple of years later it was built. And a couple of years after that, I started working here.
I love it. You never know, right? And now so in about 30 years, you'll be one of us, right? Like that's how long it takes to really be part of the community.
Yes. I might be considered a local in 30 years, right?
So you mentioned, so Tusen Tack, 1,000 things, great. You've got 5 so far on your way to 1,000, but so how does it actually work? So, is it just a partnership with the event center, or is the event center somehow, owned and managed by Tusen Tack? And same thing with the food shelf and those sorts of things. Are we talking about partnerships, or are we talking about really it's all under the same nonprofit organization?
It is. So when this place was built, what's the word? Incorporated as a 501c3. So we're all under the umbrella of Tusen Tack programs. So, I mean, the food shelf has existed, independently for so many years, but they came under this umbrella and are housed in the event center on the south side. And then the library is on the north side. And then the event center and the kitchen are here. So 4 of the entities are in this physical space. And then, of course, the thrift stores across town. But we're all,
So talk a little bit about that. I think it's a pretty compelling piece of kind of collaboration, because I know, I've been involved in the nonprofit world, and everybody kind of wants their own, their own shingle. They want their own, name. They want their own 501c3. They want their own executive director. They want their own thing. And, I can understand the reasons for that, but, nonprofits typically don't have huge revenue streams. And so, if there's expenses related to all of that, even just management and websites and all that kind of stuff, it ends up being less and less of the income that comes in or the revenue that comes in that actually goes to the impact of the program. So I don't know if that was part of the rationale behind this, or maybe talk a little bit about the benefits of kind of coming together like that.
Of incorporating?
Yeah,
well, and I should say
of coming together and incorporating under the same umbrella.
Right. Well, as the newest member of this Tusen Tack family, I can make my best guess, but I do think there's advantages. Obviously operating under the same building has been really helpful for our library and our food shelf. There's something else I was going to say about that. And just incorporating, we have a lot of the volunteers, the same people who have volunteered for years at the thrift store also volunteer at the food shelf. And now as well, the event center and the library. So it's all a lot of the same people that are moving and shifting and everything. So it's been really great that it can all be sort of pooled together with our resources.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You get the pool of resources, but then you've got, you can share best practices, all of those things as well. So I know it's probably an unfair question, the Tusen Tack thing, because that's the whole, corporate organization. Your role really is manager of the Braham Event Center, right? That's your primary role. So talk a little bit about, what does that even look like? Managing an event center. I know there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and you guys are bringing like COVID vaccines, and there's a ton of stuff going on, but like, what does it look like to be a manager of an event center?
It's fun. It's dynamic. It's in my background, like before I came over to the event center, I was working at a travel agency for, musical groups, bands, choirs, and orchestras. So I sort of was on the other side of things, looking for places to book. And now working here, it kind of gets to be the other side of it, bringing people into the center and kind of having that background. It's been fun. One of the things I love about my role is we were kind of looking back at 2020, and we realized, which is pretty standard, I think about 50% of our rentals are private, right? So weddings, business meetings, things like that at market rates. And then 50% of our bookings are either our own programming or working with local nonprofits and civic groups and the government entities on educational, arts, cultural, health, seniors and youth focused events. And we love that. Like, I think that's so fun and dynamic that it's sort of a blend of all of that.
Oh, for sure. So please continue. Yeah. Did you have more?
No. Yeah. So for me, I actually came on full time right as the pandemic began.
Great timing.
But actually it's still busy because I'm coordinating for the event center, but I'm also doing marketing and some other projects for other programs as needed. So it has felt busy this last year, and of course just weathering the storm of trying to figure out, okay, we have to put this preparedness plan together so that when we do open, which we did last year for part of the year and then again this year, how can we do it safely so people feel comfortable if they do need to do in-person meetings. So that's been kind of fun and exciting. And our event center is still, aside from me, we have 2 part-time custodians. And the rest of our workforce with the kitchen's completely volunteer run. And for all of our events at the event center, aside from me and our custodians, it's all the community supporters. A lot of whom are like my husband's teachers from when he came to school here, which is really fun.
Yeah. Is part of your role, and do you manage the volunteer teams as well? Is that part of?
Yeah. I help with sort of scheduling of the volunteers to get here for serving on the buffet line, helping to take down tables or reset the room in the middle of a wedding, or, different things like that. Definitely interacting with our awesome volunteers.
And I love that. I really love that you have that background too, of trying to find venues and sort of knowing what you're looking for in venues, because that has to help a ton when people are coming to you, because you already kind of know what they're looking for.
Yes.
You can address their concerns before they even ask, right? Because what the things are that could go wrong.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yep.
So tell me a little bit about some of the events that you guys have done that you're excited about, or things that are coming up, or what's
Sure.
sort of the vision for what this looks like?
Well, yeah. I mean, right now we're sort of we closed down. So last year we were open from July to November, and the bulk of those were probably weddings, which we did at 25% occupancy. And now we kind of had a quiet winter as things needed to be quieted down again with the COVID numbers. And now people are ready to get out, and we're trying to make sure that they feel safe doing that. So we have a ton. We have the most weddings we've ever booked in the history of the center in this year, coming off of this COVID year, which is great. We also have a lot of fundraisers for local nonprofits, those that feel comfortable coming back. A few have decided to go online for this year, and hopefully we'll come back next year. We just had prom last weekend for the high school, local Braham High School. And then this weekend we'll have Ogilvy's prom as well. What else have we been doing? We just, Isanti County Public Health came here last Friday to do a vaccine clinic. So they'll be back next month for the second shot for that crew of people that registered. Actually today, the AARP tax aid group is here. So in years past, they've gone to, I can't remember where exactly, but somewhere in Mora, and they've got several locations in Chisago County as well. But a lot of the locations that they've used to do their tax aid meetings have been attached to senior centers, and they're not open right now with the COVID restrictions. So they reached out. It was actually the 7 County Senior Federation referred them to us. And so they're here today. They've been coming every Monday during tax season and using our space for free just to be able to hold their meetings to help the local community for tax.
Well, and I think one of the great things about your space is that it's such a large space too. So even if you have a fairly small group, I mean, there's so much room to be able to spread out if that's a remaining concern. So, because it's not one nice big open room, and I know there's other locations inside of the building too, but that really kind of bodes well for people that are saying, ooh, I want to get together, I want to be inside, but I don't know, I don't want to be cooped up in a small room. You really have the option to spread out as much as you want.
Yes, we are so grateful for that. A lot of people have come here and been grateful for space to just spread out and use our sound system and just feel that they can accomplish what they need to for their meetings, but in a safe way.
And you've got it's a great space for a wedding. You mentioned the sound system. What else is kind of there? So, people listening to this might be going, I'm kind of looking for an event center. I'm not really, I didn't know that this existed. Braham. Okay. Some people are going, where's Braham? They look up and like, oh, that's not that far away from me. That's like 40 minutes away. Or I'm from the metro area, and oh my gosh, it costs so much to rent stuff and I can't really get what I want. Here's this place up in Braham. It's on a beautiful lot, great windows, great photo opportunities, a nice big space. Like, tell people a little bit about what are some of the amenities? Like, why should they look at your website and kind of check you out?
Why should you come to us?
Why?
Yeah, we're getting actually more and more couples from the cities areas are coming up this way because they love not only the price. I mean, we are cheaper than even other wedding venues in the area, but the convenience. Getting out and feeling rural is free parking when you compare it to Minneapolis or St. Paul, right?
And a lot of parking, good amount of parking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good amount of parking. Our building, if you aren't familiar with it, kind of has that rustic barn feel. So a lot of couples like to come here because it looks like a barn, but it has the modern amenities of not being a barn. So if it's cold or hot, we've got AC or air, and we've got a gorgeous big window that overlooks kind of a forested area. So it's like the perfect backdrop for a wedding ceremony. And then after that, that's where the bridal party always sits for the reception. And in terms of amenities, we've got our banquet hall seats up to 400. So even now with restrictions with COVID, we can still seat about 175 people with the proper spacing that's required for safety regulations. And then we have our on-site kitchen, which is Kathy's kitchen. That's community run. So our pricing is pretty competitive and the food's really good. Of course, I'm biased because I eat it almost.
Well, and you should be. Well, if it wasn't good, you'd change it. Like that's the
yeah.
So
and then we have
go ahead.
A library as well, which sort of serves as the bridal suite for our events, or the green room we had a comedy show here a few weeks ago, or for concerts and things like that. And it's a nice room. And then the room I'm sitting in now is a second meeting room that we have as well. So for some of the nonprofits and businesses that come here for trainings, we've got 2 breakout rooms. And then our banquet hall has a movable wall partition that splits it off 1/3 to 2/3. So we've got a lot of flexibility with shifting around for meetings and
It's
and
a
protect our
great
breeding
space.
ground.
What about
Yeah,
what about people like, so I'm curious, one thing, this has actually impacted our family, so maybe this is something for us to consider, but family reunion kind of thing. So I know some locations are not renting out, like you said, because of different reasons. Is it a spot for a family reunion? Could we bring outside food in, or do you have to use Kathy's
ah,
kitchen? Like, talk a little bit
good
about
question.
that dynamic, because
Yes.
most, if you're from Minnesota, family reunions are, everybody brings a dish, right?
A smorgasbord, right?
Smorgasbord,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. How does that work
yeah.
there?
That's a good question. So we've kind of adjusted during COVID because we know we've had so many inquiries from people who even just, we have bridal showers. We've had a few in the last month, graduation parties, and like you said, family reunions. So we rent out the library, and outside food has always been allowed for the library, and that seats up to 30 people. But with COVID, you just can't safely fit that number. So
Right.
we've just said, you know what, let's shift. You can have the banquet hall, and for the time being, we'll allow outside food as well. So we have made that shift for families that are saying, we want to be safe. We don't want it at our house. Can we have it at the center?
Oh,
So
that's pretty awesome. And that's a huge opportunity for people now. I know you're running the risk there, maybe
yeah,
there's a deposit or whatever, but that's a huge opportunity for people. So like, give me a ballpark, who's ever listening going, okay, now I'm kind of intrigued. Well,
yeah.
quick, give me the website, because people might be listening and they want to look at pictures too. So what's the website of the event center, quick?
It's brahamcenter.org.
Yep. So as you're listening to this, go look at the pictures and kind of get a feel for it as well. But like, give us a price range. And I know that's maybe not
Sure.
fair, but as somebody that doesn't have a connection to you, somebody that doesn't even have a connection to
Sure.
the city, what's kind of a ballpark range?
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
I'll give you a range. So what we were just talking about was sort of the private family gatherings or a bridal shower or something like that. So right now we're doing an hourly rate in the banquet hall of $50. And we say it needs to be a minimum of 3 hours just to make it worth our while to turn on the lights and
Right.
provide our janitorial services after. So
Yeah.
it'll be $150 minimum to come and do a shower. But if you're going to do, an open house from 1 to 4, something like that, that's generally the pricing. And then we don't, if you're not doing food through us, our kitchen is, closed, but we have, this room can kind of be your prep room, or you can just bring in sandwiches from Subway, something like that. For other types of events, so weddings right now, our Saturday rate is $1,900,
Okay.
which is really great when you compare
Yep.
to some of the other sort of rustic barn settings in our area. It's a lot cheaper. And of course, we're a nonprofit, so we try to keep the rates low as we can as well for the community.
So what is the
and our
100 for the Saturday rate? What is that? That's just kind of all day.
that is, the building is yours. So
Yeah.
it's an exclusive rental. So most couples will come and you got the space for the day. So you're coming in to use the banquet hall. Most of our couples that book with us will do the ceremony, and then we change over for the reception. Others might just come for the reception, and that's fine too. And then you've got the library as your bridal suite all day. And then this room that I'm sitting in is sort of the partner's room, the groom or the partner's room. And you've kind of got the run of the place for the whole day.
Yeah, that is so cheap. And you might be going, well, $1,900.
Yeah.
Ooh, go look around and see what prices that you
Oh
can
yeah.
for a
I
location like this.
think the next closest is maybe 6,000 for the day, if I remember correctly.
For a
From
place like this, where it's just yours, decorated up. I mean, it's amazing. And the $50 an hour rate, like, you're going to be raising that soon, because that's going to demand.
Well, we're trying to be helpful because we understand
that is helpful.
people are
holy cow,
not comfortable in their homes. Yeah.
That's really, really cheap. I mean, that's a great rate for people to be able to come in. So I think that's phenomenal. And like you said, it's a nonprofit. So, if you're giving money and if you're renting this place, you're actually doing a value to the community. In addition,
absolutely. Yes, you're supporting local, and you're helping us to fund our event center and food shelf and library. And
do you know how that kind of feeds up at all? And maybe it's too soon to have all that data, but okay, so you got all the rental income from the event center. It goes to pay your salary, I presume, other expenses associated, all the upkeep costs, all the everything. But then eventually some of that goes back to the larger organization. It goes to kind of the other program. Do you have any idea like how much of a rental fee might go toward the broader community?
Well, I mean, obviously our ultimate goal is that will all feed back into the community. As of now, I mean, especially with COVID, it's going to help us, recoup those costs of just not being open for part of last year and this year. But no, I guess I don't know the exact figure.
No. I'm putting you on the spot. I think that's it's a compelling thing. Eventually, once things settle down, it's kind of a nice thing to kind of be aware of, like, hey, you rent this thing for $50 an hour, $30 goes toward all the stuff we got to do here, and then $20 is going to go into the broader community.
Exactly.
That's pretty compelling.
I mean, that's the goal, and that's absolutely what our model too is. As many of these sort of what we are terming like market rentals, right? All the private rentals that are going for sort of market rates a little lower than others are helping to fund it so that we can still offer discounted or free space to local nonprofit and civic groups that need our space to fundraise or hold trainings or things, and being able to use a big modern building at a reasonable rate for their budget as well.
It's an amazing community asset. I mean, when you think about Braham and the size of Braham, and I think we've got something here for all of that kind of stuff, that is unbelievable for the community. So kudos to, I don't know if Tim was involved in helping drive that, or whoever was involved in helping drive that. Kudos to them for having the vision, and then kudos to the community and Tusen Talk for stepping up and being a part of that thing. So I know we just have a few minutes left, but I want to get a little bit of your thoughts on kind of what you've learned through this process, either as a leader, as a nonprofit leader or a small business leader. I mean, at the end of the day, I just kind of group everything into small business, because nonprofits are a small business. Like, just because the money goes to impact the community or otherwise, it doesn't mean it's still not a small business. There's still management, there's still decisions, there's all of the things that you're trying to do, because you have to do well to do good, right? You have to be financially viable to be able to have impact. So I just consider all nonprofits just as another subset of a small business. So tell us a little bit about what you've learned in really, in your role. You're kind of running this business. What insight do you have for others that are maybe starting out running businesses, or they're looking at moving into small business or nonprofit leadership? What advice would you have for folks?
Oh my gosh, I have learned so much. I'm trying to think of something in my mind. I've always been impressed with this particular group of volunteers, because Tim, my husband, has just like sung their praises for years, and he keeps pulling people into the fold, and you can't help but get excited, because I love this Patty Lind, who runs our kitchen and has been a longtime volunteer and founder, part of the founding group of all of this, had a quote that I really liked. In the end, she says, "By working together, we've proven that small towns are stronger than ever." And I just think that's so true. Like, this whole thing has come into being just because a group of people got together and said, let's do this. And what do we need to do? And just figuring out the research, figuring out who to partner with to get the loans or the individual or business donations. And I've just been really impressed that all you have to do is find smart people that want to work together towards a common goal, and suddenly everything seems to happen.
Well, that's what I'm a big, I did a TED Talk, get the right peeps in your Jeep, surround yourself with the right people like that. It's such a big thing. And maybe that's your answer to this question. Just kind of my final question for you is about that. I've been in nonprofit leadership, and I've seen strong volunteer bases, and I've seen weak volunteer bases. I've seen, groups where, boy, people just are engaged and they're owning it and they're doing it like what you're talking about, and other groups where it's just so hard to get people motivated. And I'm curious if you have any insight into how do you guys do that? What is the difference between those groups? Is it just luck of the draw, or is there something happening in organizational leadership and vision, or what, why do you think your people have been so involved and so engaged for so long?
Yeah. From coming as the newbie, what I have seen is there's a base of community pride. I mean, these volunteers care so much about their community that they've put these visions into place. And I think it's also, what does Tim always say? I've seen it with this group too. He says, none of us are as smart as all of us, right? Yeah. So everybody here is not afraid to just reach out to an outside consultant. They did that a few years ago to really pull in and say, okay, what are our next steps for the next 5 years? And to build, we've now got all these different committees that are focusing on different paths for the organization. And, we're looking to do it again. I've just noticed that no one's afraid to say, well, I don't know, let's go reach out to this person, ask them to join our board. Let's go do this. And it's just a lot of humble people willing to sort of reach out and find the experts and bring it back in-house. And just
I love, that's what I'm hearing. So there's this community pride, which is, there's something bigger than ourselves, right? We're tapped into, it's not about us, it's something bigger, and we've bought into that. We're owning that. And then the humility to actually do what is needed in sake of the vision versus just being, oh, I got this. It's about me. I love that. So I'm going to take that away. Community pride and humility. Those are your driving forces for your volunteer base. Well, tell us, I know we got to wrap up here, but anything, how do people get in touch with you? You gave us the website, but give us that again, both for the event center as well as for the broader Tusen Talk. I mean, how do people connect with you more?
So if you're looking for a Braham Event Center, so it's brahamcenter.org. But Tusen Talk Programs as a whole has our own website that is tusentalk.org. So TUSENTACK.org. And that lists all the details about our food shelf, our library, our kitchen, the event center, and the thrift store. And to reach me directly, I put my cell phone out into the universe all the time. So you can reach me. I'm at 763-234-1553. It's on our website as well. Definitely give me a call if there's any questions. I love chatting about events and anything related to our programs and how to network together and partner together. So.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here, Kelly. I mean, obviously it's such a great thing that a lot of people aren't even aware of. So be aware of it. Even if you're like outstate Minnesota, this is an opportunity, especially for like a wedding, right? We're going to come in for an entire day anyway.
Absolutely.
Drive the extra hour, pay a third of the price, and have the place to yourself. So thank you so much for being on here. For you guys, go check out smallbusiness.com. We've got all of our podcast episodes. We've got our blogs. All of the information on the training programs that we have is out there. And SSB has a community partner program. So if you are a member of one of our community partners, like the Braham Area Chamber of Commerce, like Kelly, you can be featured on the podcast. But if you want to get booked, you want to find out more, feel free to reach out to me, Steve, at smallbusiness.com. And we're going to keep making our communities more vibrant. Hopefully we keep finding people like Kelly to move into our communities and take hold of these things and make them more vibrant. But don't forget to connect with us, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all that stuff. But Kelly, once again, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
Take care.